One big trend definitely is kind of thematic investments or thematic funds. We've already kind of talked about this a little bit. Carsten, would you say it's not enough to have a good performance right now on this environment, but the fund has to tell a story? So it's kind of good on the story side. And so more and more thematic investments are kind of on vogue right now.
Well, I would say story is important, of course, but but overall, at the end of the day, it definitely decides if you bring the performance or not. No matter how good the story is, at the end of the day, you have to make the performance, you have to make the alpha, and then you have to bring some added value to the portfolio. And what you see at the moment, and we had those periods in the past as well, is of course everybody seems to like this thematic investments. But if you look at the past, let's say week or 2 weeks, you can also see what is the danger, especially if you get those really crowded places like the ones that we saw, or if you look at the fund manager survey, that probably you see those crowded places. You see technology now for more than 2 years, and within technology you see all those really crowded places, just like cybersecurity or cloud computing and all digital economy and all of that. And I think, of course, it's important to get those ideas also in your portfolio, of course, but you have to make sure that you have them in that period when they really bring that added value. And it's not a buy and hold and stick to it for a long time. So you have to really be kind of you have to wait until you buy, and you have always to be ready to sell again. So of course, we have those thematic investments as well, but we really try to be diversified overall. And we also try to bring in ideas in the portfolio that are maybe some kind of out of favor, just to bring some contrapoint to the portfolio construction.
And maybe to add another aspect to it, what Carsten just mentioned is, I think, very important. If you play these themes, there's always two ways we see how you could do it. One way would be obviously to pick one of these thematic funds, like the Global Tech Fund or Global Water or whatever. But the other way we like to play themes is through the classic regional managers, and then identify, for example, a manager who has an overweight in things like healthcare and technology, but doesn't need to stay in the sector. So if it moves out of favor, he can stay with his quality regional approach and then select any other sector and move to an underweight, but still play the topic kind of with 50% of the portfolio. But it just gives him more flexibility. And what you need to watch in portfolio construction is obviously that you don't accidentally choose these kind of managers, and then don't get that you might have a technology overweight just because you selected a topical fund and combined it with 2 or 3 managers who also play the same topic, because then obviously you lose out on the diversification.
No, maybe just to mention that also, if we invest in those thematic ideas, most of the time we really try to do that passive. So we look for some ETFs because it's a more tactical theme. We hardly buy into active managed funds with some certain thematic exposure. Then on that side, we do it just like Mark, and we break down our more broader diversified fund managers to see on what period of the market they invest in some certain thematic ideas or not, and bring that together to get some kind of idea what's our overall exposure to a theme is. And then maybe to bring something on the top, we buy that ETF, but really more on a tactical space, and we buy and sell that sometimes really often and in a fast direction.
When it comes to themes, I get a little bit more cautious. It depends on what the themes are, in terms of core themes. I think about those themes as core, like, value and size and things that we know pay a good premium over time. We can lean into those. But when it comes to themes like, water or in the States, cannabis, and things like that, or even, cryptocurrency, you get a lot those frighten me. I think they're very difficult from a valuation point of view. Yeah, performance is tearing up, but there's also the other side as well. And And as you've lived through the 90s, and here I go aging myself a little bit, and what happened during those time periods, how these themes can be great for a short period of time and then completely fall out of bed and for good. It requires very good tactical maneuvering in a portfolio, something that is very tricky to do. Even the best portfolio managers struggle to be tactical around new and emerging themes. So I tend to, at least in our organization, and I've heard this drumbeat a lot from my peers, that themes are quite popular. We take a much more cautious stance on that, and leave it up to the advisor to do it on their own, because for us it's very hard to get our arms around when it'll work and when it will not work. There's always a two-way street on that.
But aren't those markets, especially the markets where active managers can add value because they've got a special expertise in the medical space or physical or wherever?
Yeah, like healthcare is fine. The more exotic the theme it goes, the manager might be able to perform very well, but there's a lot of beta associated with that theme. So I'm not worried so much the alpha. That beta could completely overwhelm any sort of alpha associated if the theme begins to unwind and lose its popularity of the moment. So the endurance of the theme really matters. And there, when things are quite new, as there's a lot of new things that have been popping up, I still think the jury's out whether there's some good premia of that theme over time.
That's actually a point where I think fund size is also an important thing. For example, if you look at things like robotics, is a topic which became popular a couple of years ago, and then 2-3 funds popped up and they kind of went to 10-15 billion or something before they soft closed. And so they, in some terms, they made their own performance because they invested in small mid caps to a large extent. And so you don't, or from our perspective, if you do any of these topical or thematic investments, it's important to watch both sides. The fund shouldn't be too small, but certainly once they get to a position where the fund size gets to a point where they consider the soft closing, etc., that's often also kind of an indicator on when it's time to get out, because it's just become too popular. And then if everybody's already in the theme, then basically move on to something else. That's kind of our approach in that case.
And adding to your answer, Mark, so we are exactly in the same camp, and I think it's always very important when you look at themes that you also look at the companies that are concentrating on the themes. So for example, when I look at the clean energy space, I think there's one ETF that's grown massive in AUM. But when I look at the companies this ETF is replicating, the companies are very, very small. So as you described, Mark, they are small cap, probably micro cap companies with very, very high valuations. So this is a bubble that will bust, and you can ride that wave, but you need to exit at some time. And I think this quite of timing is very, very hard for a fund selector. This is more a portfolio manager's theme, and so we drive the same approach that Mark described. And Brian talked about, we are very cautious about themes, so we concentrate on the managers and let the managers go into this themes depending on the region and where he thinks most interesting topics can be found.